Hola, bon dia. Carl Munson here from expatsportugal.com with the Good Morning Portugal show. Delighted to have with us this morning Chris Sainty, the UK ambassador to Portugal, who'll be talking with us. A special message for British expats here in Portugal, but don't let the rest of you expats be put off by that. We're going to be talking to Chris about what it's like to be an ambassador as well. After he's delivered a message to British expats here. It is, of course, Friday the 13th today, and that will be sexta-feira, dia 3 de novembro, for you who need to learn the language here. A fairly easygoing start to learning the language, just learning the days of the week here on the Good Morning Portugal show. Let's have a look at that Portuguese weather and see what's going on for the weekend in Lisbon currently, where Chris is. 14 degrees and overcast. 20 the high. I'm sorry to say there's some rain coming this weekend, but better days ahead. It's a meteorological metaphor. Monday and Tuesday should be sunny with highs of 23, but a wet weekend. In Porto, 12 degrees, mostly cloudy today, rising to 20. And Saturday and Sunday will be cloudy and rainy. More rain on the Sunday, but still mild temperatures. Coimbra, 12 degrees and overcast at the moment, rising to 21. That's my part of the country here. 19 and 20 respectively, Saturday and Sunday. Bit of rain coming this way, but good weather to come on Monday and Tuesday. High of 24, actually. Looking forward to Tuesday. And in the south, in Faro, 17 degrees, mostly cloudy. A 21-degree high today. It's raining already, I think, or that's how it's going to look later on today in Faro. A bit of rain this afternoon and to follow tomorrow, Saturday, but sunnier day on Sunday down there in the south. Okay, there's the weather for you. Obviously, what we need to talk about after we've spoken to Chris is the rise in the number of municipalities with, the soft state of emergency measures that have come in. They will be with us next weekend in these new municipalities that have been added to the list after a marathon meeting of ministers yesterday. So we will return to that, but only after we've spoken to UK Ambassador to Portugal, Chris Sainty. Chris, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Oh, good morning, Carl, and good morning to everyone who's listening. It's very nice of you to invite me on your program. Thanks very much.
Wonderful to have you here. And I think there is a message for the British expats in Portugal in the transition period, this momentous time in history, basically.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to deliver that message, Carl. And so first of all, an apology, because I guess there's probably quite a lot of people listening to me who will have heard me say this in some cases many times before, because as I said to you earlier, I feel sometimes a little bit like a scratched record on this subject, since for the last 2 years, I've been saying the same thing, basically, to the British community here in Portugal. But as we approach the end of the transition period and the really decisive moment in terms of leaving the EU, I think it's very important. It bears repeating, shall I say? And that message is this: look, if you're a British national resident here in Portugal, it's really important that your residence is put on a legal footing, formalized. So you need the residence certificate. You need to go to your town hall and make sure that you've got the piece of paper. And that is the key step that all Brits resident in Portugal need to take ahead of the end of the transition period, if possible. Now, it's not quite as sort of hard a sort of cliff edge as it sounds, because in fact, if you're able to demonstrate that you were living in Portugal before the 31st of December, you can actually go and do that registering after the 1st of January. But our strong advice is get on with it, get it done. And the thing about getting your residency, getting your official residency, as it were, is that all the other rights that you have as a British national under the withdrawal agreement, the sort of Brexit agreement, they all flow from that initial step, so healthcare, driving licenses, all the things that people ask questions about all the time. The first and absolutely essential step is getting yourself registered. And it's a simple process down at the town hall. Now, I'm quite sure that most of the people listening will know this, so they've all probably done it, or not all of them. But the point is, we want to try and reach everybody. And, sorry, one last thing. I mean, there's obviously still quite a lot of people arriving in the run-up to the transition period. So for them, perhaps they haven't heard this before. And so if any of your listeners are aware of people Brits arriving in Portugal between now and the 31st of December, please let them know that this is the first and most important thing they should do when they get here.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. And as you say, it's a fairly simple process of going to the town hall. We heard of a lovely story yesterday. The grandmother of our community, Donna Jacqueline, as we call her, had a visit from the freguesia, because I think you need to prove that you are resident here, obviously, as part of the conditions, as in, have a lease and be known to be living somewhere in Portugal. That was taken care of. And then she's in a motorized chair and essentially housebound. The wonderful people at her local camera came out to see her and issued her with her residencia document, which is the 5-year document, of course, which then can lead to permanent citizenship thereafter. But they came to see her, which I think is an indication of the goodwill between our two countries. Bear with us, other expats, for a moment, while the Portuguese and the British have a bit of a love-in here. But yes, there's this long and excellent relationship between us, isn't there?
There is, and actually that's a lovely story you just told, and it really sort of reflects my experience of dealing with various different sort of Portuguese authorities on this whole issue of the protection of the British community and the British community's rights after we've left the EU. I have felt really, I've been here for 2 years now, and right from the beginning I've felt that there is a tremendous reservoir of goodwill and generosity and kindness, really, from the Portuguese towards the British community, and that's a lovely thing. And it suggests to me that you've all made a very good choice in coming to live here in Portugal, because I think there is, genuinely a sort of desire on the part of the Portuguese government, Portuguese authorities, and by and large the Portuguese people to do the right thing by the British community after Brexit.
And I think it's reciprocal as well, isn't it? Because there's a large Portuguese community in the UK, of course.
Absolutely.
And yes, it's reflected there too.
And that's an interesting point. I mean, we talk about the big British community in Portugal, and we're never quite sure what the numbers are, but we think it may be somewhere in the region of 40 to 50,000.
Right.
There are 400,000 Portuguese living in the UK, so it's on a completely different scale. And they make an astonishing contribution to British society and economy. And think of all the Portuguese working in our health service, for example.
Yeah.
How would we survive without them? So it's a really important part of the relationship between the two countries, I think. This interchange of communities and people, and it's part of what makes my job so interesting, to be honest.
I'm sure, and we'll talk a little bit more about your job, if we may, in just a moment. We have a few good mornings from people. Grace is saying good morning. Grace McLaren, morning, everybody. Ola from this interesting company, Running Duck Pet Services. You don't have to register your animals. It's okay. Ola, bon dia from Wayne Barker. Louise Ellen, bon dia, overcast in Coimbra today. Druba, our friend Druba over there in Sintra, saying good morning, guys. Safiro, Portuguese person. It's lovely. We have a lot of Portuguese people tuning in as well. Bon dia from Safiro. Bon dia from Penny Albertella. What if I want to move to Portugal post January 2021? Will this be allowed? That's a rather extreme question, which we can come back to. I'm sure it will be, Penny. Morning, Carl. Is it okay to go to some of these questions, Chris?
Yeah, and I'm happy to try and answer that one if you would like me to. I think we can answer it quite quickly.
Let's talk to Penny about that. Yeah. So moving.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. So look. Yes, of course. Just because we've left the EU doesn't mean that it suddenly becomes impossible to move to Portugal. But I think the point here is that if you want to be protected and covered by the withdrawal agreement, the Brexit deal, then you need to get a move on and do it and be here by the 31st of December. That's not to say that there won't be ways of becoming resident in Portugal after the 1st of January. But what will happen at that point is the UK will simply be treated like any other non-EU country. A Brit arriving in Portugal would have to go through the same process as an American or an Australian or whatever. It's possible. There's a little bit more to it. It's a bit more bureaucratic. You have to get visas and so on. But it's not. There will still be an option. I'm quite sure to come and live in Portugal after January 2021.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent. Thank you, Chris. Morning, Carl from Dawn. Hope you're well. I have a question. A friend of mine who lives in their motorhome obtained residency living for the winter in Lagos. It is now closed. What should they do as they want to be in Lagos but have nowhere to stay? If you could ask Chris. That's a bit specific. I'm not sure how well we can address that one, Chris.
I think it's a bit difficult for me to give individual advice on a case like that, I'm afraid. But, I think generally the point is if you want to maintain your residency in Portugal, you do have to have an address. I think that's the key.
Okay, so the basics there, and of course, people can make an approach to the consulate, to the embassy via your website as well to get
Absolutely, and we would very much encourage them to do that if they have doubts or questions that are not answered by the various bits of advice we've got online. Then please do contact us through the contact form on our website.
So there you go, Dawn. So ask your friend to go via the website. I think there with that quite specific inquiry. Good morning and welcome to you from Mrs. Munson, extending our hospitality to you this morning, Chris. Good morning.
Good morning, Mrs. Munson.
I'll extend that to you as well, Chris, from Haley. And hola, bon dia. Thanks, Chris, for your time this morning from Paul, who's new to Portugal. And look, he's got his new profile pic with the beautiful Portuguese beach and sun behind him. Those are the sort of bragging rights. Like, on a more human level, then, Chris, your job. I mean, people think being an ambassador, I think, is the stereotype, obviously, of handing out Ferrero Rochers, helping people with emergency passports, helping them if they've got drunk or something like that. There's more to it than that, I understand.
I think there's a little bit more to it than that. And one of the great sadnesses in my life is I really hate Ferrero Rocher as well. So that's never really worked for me, that thing. No. So this is a question my children have been asking me for years. What do you actually do, Dad, at work? And it's never been a very easy question to answer. I think the reason it's not entirely straightforward is one of the beauties of the job, because it's so broad and there's so many different things you get involved in. And no 2 days are ever quite the same as British ambassador or working in a British embassy. But let me try and sort of give a little bit of a picture of what we do and what I do. So obviously there's the bit that's visible to most people, which is offering assistance and support and help to Brits, whether they're British people living in Portugal or whether they're British people visiting Portugal. That's what we call the sort of consular side of the operation. And we've got a fantastic team here in Portugal devoted to those tasks. And you've had Simona and Marta on your show, I think. And so people some people listening may be familiar with they will have described in some detail the kind of support that they give to the community and to the visiting British population. But there's a whole lot of other stuff we do as well. I mean, basically the role of the ambassador in the embassy is to protect and promote British interests in Portugal. And of course, that's a very broad waterfront. So, for example, economically, that we have a huge and growing trade and investment relationship with Portugal. A lot of British companies do business here in Portugal. A lot of Portuguese companies invest in the UK. And one of the things that the embassy does is provide support to those companies to help them sort of get into the market, to build their businesses, to increase their investment. That's good news for prosperity in both countries, and that's a very important part of the work we do. Then there's the sort of thing I would describe more as the kind of political relationship, making sure that the two governments are getting on with each other and understanding each other. And so, to give an example of that, we, Portugal, see eye to eye on the massive issue of climate change. And so we're very keen that the two countries should work closely together over the next year or two, particularly because the UK is going to be hosting this huge climate change conference in Glasgow next November. And we would like Portugal to play an important, really important supporting role. So on big issues like that, we talk a great deal to make sure that we're kind of on the same page and sort of pursuing the same objectives and initiatives and all that kind of stuff. And that's a really, really fascinating and interesting part of the job. And of course, that dialogue between the two governments has also been really important in recent months in the context of the pandemic. We've exchanged an enormous amount of advice and information between the two countries over how to tackle the sort of common problems that we face as this virus presents our societies with huge challenges. And then, there are other aspects of the relationship. There's a long-standing, in fact, you referred to the sort of ancient alliance between the two countries. There's a big military dimension to that. So there's a long-standing defense relationship and a very warm and historic relationship between the armed forces of the two countries. So we manage that as well. there's a lot of law enforcement cooperation, fighting crime across borders, all that kind of stuff. So the embassy has an enormously broad remit. And as I say, one of the joys of the job that I have here is that I get involved in all of this stuff, and it just makes my life really interesting. And I can't think of a country where I'd rather be doing that than Portugal, to be honest, for all the obvious reasons. It's a terrific place to be.
What a wonderful and an interesting job. Julia Santameri, good morning from Julia. Yes, Julia, on your offer of doing a well-being special, obviously we need that at the moment with the pandemic and its effects. So yes, do come back and we'll do a well-being special with you. English, Lisboa. Bom dia a todos. Please, could you say hello to Marco? He's one of my English students. Part of his homework is to watch one of your shows. That's great homework. And this is an especially good moment to do that. Thank you and have a great weekend, Sally in Lisbon. Chris, could you, I think, make an English student, a Portuguese English student very happy by saying hello to Marco?
Yes, hello, Mark. It's great. I hope you're enjoying studying English and making progress. It's not always a very easy language to learn, but I have noticed that people in Portugal speak beautiful English. So I'm sure you'll master it in no time.
Fantastic. Thanks, Chris. I suspect that might have made his day, and top marks for homework there. Hola, bom dia from Eloise. Good morning to you, Eloise. Another Portuguese contributor here. Bom dia a todos. Our governments organising any special deal in the case of Brexit with no deal? I do hope Luso-British relations continue for many years. I'm sure they will, Nuno. And I think that's a difficult one to call at the moment, which is crystal ball territory
Yes, so you're absolutely right. We don't know whether the negotiations, which are in a particularly sort of delicate and intense phase in Brussels and London at the moment, we don't know whether they're going to deliver a deal or not. So it is still a scenario we have to consider, that we might end up leaving the transition period at the end of the year without a deal. But here's the really important thing for the British community. The rights of the British community in Portugal and other EU countries, and the rights of the EU citizens in the UK are protected already in the withdrawal agreement, which is an international agreement already in force. So while of course it's an issue, and of course we want to get a trade deal and a security deal and all the other things that are being negotiated at the moment, the really important thing to remember is that the rights of citizens was one of the issues that was tackled before we left the European Union and was covered by the withdrawal agreement. So, there is no reason for people to be unduly concerned about that aspect. There are plenty of other things to worry about for sure. But in terms of residence rights, healthcare rights, the right to work, live, study, all of that stuff is already enshrined in an international treaty, which is what we're in the process of implementing.
Oh, that's so good to know. Thank you for that clarity on there, and thank you.
Sorry, I've just noticed that there's a sort of second part to Nuno's question, which is the sort of hope that the Portuguese-British relationship continues for many years. Well, that's absolutely my hope too, Nuno, and that's why I'm here really. I regard that as an absolutely fundamental part of my job, to make sure that this wonderful historic relationship between the two countries continues for many more centuries to come.
Excellent. How lovely. And yeah, lots of love to the Portuguese community in the UK via you, Nuno, and I think Michelle Castrovieira. There's a bit of a giveaway in the name there. I think from the Portuguese diaspora. Bom dia from Nottingham. And from LJP, bon dia, please can you confirm your website to get help? We'll absolutely make sure, LJP, that you are connected with the British Embassy so that you can ask your questions. Grace is asking, do we need to register for healthcare and Portuguese EH1C prior to 31st of November? To test my understanding, Chris, of what's being said, get the residency and register at your local health centre if you are here in Portugal. Is there anything to add to that?
Not really. Look, as scratch record for the umpteenth time. Get your residence documents, yeah, and then go down to the health centre and register for healthcare. But that's not as time sensitive. I mean, that doesn't have to be done before the 31st of December. Although, of course, we would recommend that everyone gets themselves enrolled in the Portuguese health service, as soon as they can after they've got their residency sorted.
Okay.
And the same is true, I think, of the EHIC. I think once you've got your residence, you can apply for that anytime.
Yes. Okay. Superb. I think you describing your job has excited my wife about how you become a British ambassador or an ambassador at all. And I think other people will be thinking that's a great job. I'd like my kids to do that or whatever. How do you get into the business?
Oh, it's goodness me. I'd have to go back about 30 years to even begin to answer that question, which is when I joined the British Diplomatic Service through the Foreign Office, what was then called the FCO, and which has recently changed its name to the FCDO, the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office. So that is a government department. So I basically applied after I left university to work for the government as a civil servant, and there's an application process which I don't think has changed enormously in the last 30 years or so. And then, it's like working in any big organization. I've sort of worked my way up rung by rung, quite painfully at times. But it's all worth it, because at the end of the day, here I am, British ambassador in Portugal, which is really pretty much a dream job, I think, for me. And I think most of my colleagues would agree. But there's no great mystery about it. It's like joining any big organization and working your way up in the course of your career.
Tremendous. Thank you for that answer. And an interesting question here from Nick. Can you ask Chris, what is the news regarding ID cards for UK residents? I'm not sure if Nick's referring to the British idea of an ID card or getting an ID card as in Portugal. Can you shed some light on that, Chris?
So I think this is I'm much more expert, if that's the right word, in the sort of situation here in Portugal than the situation in the UK. So I may not be the best person to answer this question, but my understanding is that there are quite a lot of the EU citizens, EU nationals living in the UK, who would like to be issued with some sort of ID card, some sort of document that would confirm their residence in the UK. That is not the way that the UK normally. We don't have ID cards in the UK, and we never have done. It's a different cultural approach, if you like, to the whole question of residence and where those rights flow from. So I don't know the answer to that, but I don't think at the moment it is the intention of the government to go down the path of issuing ID documents or residence documents to EU nationals in the UK.
Okay, thank you for that. Dawn's thanking us for the response to her question about her friend in Lagos. Going back to SEF, I tried to register for permanent residency, but that's probably temporary residency, Gina. But we have been advised that all appointments are booked up until the 31st of December. Will there be an extension to allow for the backlog to be cleared? I'm sure there will. I'm sure there will be an understanding from the Portuguese government on that.
So I think this is probably a reference to the fact that CEF, the Portuguese border agency, that sort of the authority that's responsible for issuing permanent residence and dealing with applications, is like many public bodies, is often under pressure, and it has, I know, been very difficult and quite frustrating at times for British residents here to get appointments. And sometimes those appointments are only quite a long way in the future. So I think our advice is persevere, keep going, make sure you get an appointment, even if it is some distance in the future. That shouldn't be a problem. As long as you've got that appointment booked, the fact that you can't get in and see them immediately is frustrating, and I completely understand that and sympathise. But that's it. I think a lot of people are in the same situation, and it shouldn't have any effect on the final outcome in terms of getting the permanent residency confirmed.
Yes, and I think we can rely on some understanding and goodwill. There will be my personal view on that. Luzmi, good morning, Val, Vazda, Lera. Val, your question is quite a long one and quite a sort of a personal one. If I could refer you again there to the website that we will put up for the British Embassy. And it's very possible as well that we may speak and do another webinar with the embassy to deal with these more specific things. Chris is here this morning with an overview, I think. So we
yes, I'm doing my best to tackle the detail here, but I'm not. I have people working for me who are far more expert than I am. So that's a very helpful suggestion, Carl. Thank you.
I'd love to do that if we can speak to your team again. So interesting to hear about your role, Chris, particularly the synergy with green issues from Penny in the UK. Good morning from Kevin in Faceta. My colleague Jerry, good morning, gentlemen. Chris, on behalf of expatsportugal.com, thank you for your time and input today and for the support and cooperation we enjoy with your excellent team. So that's from our organisation to yours. Another specific one. I think we do have to roll these forward into a webinar. That's how this is looking for these personal questions.
It does look a bit like that, I think. Yes.
And loads coming in. Good, and so we will do that. We'll organise that. Good morning from Malcolm and Christine from Carvero. No chance of you sharing a Ferrero Rocher then, Carl? I'm afraid not. You heard what Chris said about that, and probably doesn't want to hear the word Ferrero Rocher or the phrase ever mentioned again.
I'm probably going to be in terrible trouble now with all the sort of Italian chocolate manufacturers.
That's right. You've ruined my chances of getting a box of them. I think I have been told that Portuguese wine often. Oh, there's an alcohol. That's a very specific question, Gary. We'll put that on the forum of expatsportugal.com. Jeff Leyland, bon dia from the Cotswolds. Still sounds like Jeff is a bit frustrated and wants to be here in Portugal. Mrs. M asking questions. We'll do this on the special, I think. We'll just go to the good mornings and the greetings for the time being, I think. Good morning all from Gemini. Bon dia, Mr. Ambassador in car. Going forward to look up who is Belgian ambassador. I won't put you on the spot and ask you that, Chris. Which is the largest?
Very nice lady is the Belgian ambassador.
Oh, excellent, good. You do know. Which is the largest foreign community in Portugal? Is it the British? An interesting question there.
So I think the answer is the Brazilian community, actually, in Portugal. But the Brits are definitely up there. They're one of the biggest foreign communities in Portugal, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Bon dia from Tamar. We'll do a few more greetings because I'm sure you have a busy day ahead of you, having explained what you do. And yes, I promise you that, folks, with these quite specific questions, we will do a webinar. We'll go into an hour-long webinar like we did before with our Portugal calling series, because clearly there are a lot of questions that need answering, and we'll be happy to field and share those with Chris's team.
I'm happy to volunteer my team for that. I'm sure they'll be delighted.
Excellent. Me too. We've given them more work. They may not be entirely happy with that,
but they will genuinely be pleased to do that again, I'm sure.
I think you're right. Yes, from my experience before, yes, and we'll have an informative, entertaining, and upbeat hour webinar with your team. So, Chris, thank you so much for being. We got more than we bargained for there in terms of questions, and we will deal with those in due course. But thank you so much for being here this morning on this Friday the 13th.
Well, thank you. They were great questions, and and there were clearly more coming in. So I think it's a great idea to follow this up with another webinar. We will be in touch with you about that, Carl. But just in the meantime, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure to get to know you and your audience. Lovely messages coming in from all over the place. And all the very best. I'm a bit sorry, a bit disappointed by the Lisbon weather forecast that you sprang on me at the beginning of this show, which suggests that we're not going to have a great weekend. But I do wish everybody a great weekend anyway, and very nice to be on your program.
Thank you so much. Great to meet you, and bye for now.
Bye.
There goes Chris Sainty, UK ambassador to Portugal, from Wayne. There, it's reassuring to know we have a great team at the embassy. Yeah, they I can tell you from talking to Chris there, obviously you could see informally a lot of fun, upbeat, and that's certainly my experience with the rest of his team when we did the webinar before, and we will do another one. We obviously need to, don't we? There, with all the questions that are coming in that we couldn't possibly manage on that sort of granular level and personal level, but we'll find a way of doing that, and please post those questions up at the expatsportugal.com forum as well. That's, I know this is a time where people are getting a bit anxious and challenged by the situations, the deadline, and so on. We will be available to you to help you as best we can with that at expatsportugal.com. And thank you very much for bearing with us. The rest of you expats, we do realize other countries are available as well of origin. So we'll find ways to deal with the British expat challenges in this transition period. And of course, our service extends to expats from all over the world at expatsportugal.com. And I was wondering what Jeff was asking here. I thought he was sparking some sort of diplomatic situation there. Are you warring? I was thinking, oh, where's Jeff going with that? Are you wearing a jumper, Carl? I think Jeff is cheekily referring to my attire because I don't have any weather bragging rights at the moment here in November in Portugal. Yes, I think the temperature may have dropped almost to below 10, Jeff. It's unbearable. Loving the little reset. Talk about it more tonight. Okay, yeah, this is my response, says Gary. Loving the little reset. This is a little wheeze of mine in a way. You've heard of this great reset thing that people are talking about at the moment, and I'd be delighted to talk about it more tonight on the Expat Man Cave. So Brit expats, all expats, men of a certain age, join us for a virtual drink down the pub at our virtual local at the Expat Man Cave tonight from 10 o'clock. And Simona and Marta, that is the team that Chris was referring to from the embassy, have done some good Q&A sessions on their Facebook page as well. Thank you for that, Paul. So there is some help out there, and we will take and field and forward your specific inquiries. We're here to support you with that. And Mrs. M, always trouble when she tunes in. And I'm worried now she wants to go off and become an ambassador. But although I've got a jumper on, I may be wearing PJ bottoms. She's giving all my secrets away. I was almost going to wear a dinner jacket today. Okay, on to this. Well, I can't put it any other way. The difficult news, the bad news of the more municipalities that are now going into what are effectively lockdown measures and curfews. Let me bring onto the screen the Portugal Resident, portugalresident.com, and the news from yesterday. 191, that's the number of Portugal's partial lockdown boroughs that now include 8 in the Algarve. For you folks down there in the south, the Portugal Resident, of course, and Algarve Resident are south Portugal focused in some ways, hence the focus here on the 8 municipalities in the Algarve: Villarreal de Santo Antonio, Tavira, São Brás del Portel, Faro, Albufeira, Portimão, Lagos, and Vila de Bispo, the big ones, basically, with Prime Minister Antonio Costa still answering questions from journalists after another marathon meeting at Council of Ministers. I think they were meeting yesterday for 8 hours. The state of emergency get tough measures have now been confirmed as extended to a total of 191 national boroughs or municipalities. 7 have been dropped from the original list of 121. For your information, they would be Mazão Frio, Moimenta de Beira, Pinhel, São João de Pesqueira, Tabuaço, Batalha, and Tondela, whilst 77 have been added. And I won't read all 77 out to you, but I can just cherry pick a few, knowing that some of our community are in those municipalities. Alvaiazara, we started with a screenshot, a starter screen this morning, the countdown to the show, with a beautiful dawn photograph this morning from Gary in Alvaiazara. You are now in that situation, Alvaiazara folks. Me too here in Anadia. I know there are a lot of expats in Ancião and Arganil. So the list is here. Coimbra is included as well. I better put this link, hadn't I, in the comments. Condéja Nova. I'm just going to the ones where I know there are expats from our community. Elvas, Bruce, of course, on the call last night. The Portugal calling that we did with the cost of living special over there in Elvas. So that's gone into these same measures. Évora, Ilhavo and Lagos, to Miranda de Corvo. So a few there that are popular with expats. Penela, Penamacor. So you need to be aware of what to do, I think. And so I'll tell you as best I can. Our go-to place, of course, is Safe Communities Portugal for very factual information with as little opinion and contention as possible with their information. So they're a very good place to start. And of course, in our evening shows, we're very happy to discuss the sort of grey areas and longer grass and talk it through. But these boroughs, some of which I mentioned there, will be bound by restrictions in force in the original 121 boroughs from a minute past midnight on November the 16th. So that hasn't happened yet, but that's Monday, isn't it? A minute past midnight on Monday. This means they will be locked down, not this coming weekend like the original 121, but the following weekend, November 21st to 22nd. How many millions of people these new decisions affect has not yet been worked out, but it's a huge portion of the national population. I mean, I did wonder with 191 of I think 350 or so municipalities, with half and half now, it might as well be the whole country in terms of mobility and so on. Why not just do that? It might be clearer. But anyway, stressed Mr. Costa, the Prime Minister, this new effort being asked is not for eternity. This isn't changing our lives forever, but it is already wearing people down, says Natasha Don, writing this article at Portugal Resident. Giuseppe Ramuzzi, director of the Milan Centre of Pharmacological Investigations, has warned that the world may have to maintain measures of prevention, like the use of masks, physical distancing, until 2024. Particularly as the vaccines still under development will be like those of the flu virus. They won't eliminate COVID-19. In the US, infectious diseases expert Dr. Anthony I nearly called him Antonio Fauci, which I don't suppose he'd mind, has said much the same. I doubt we're going to eradicate this, he said today. I think we need to plan that this is something we may need to maintain control over chronically. It may be something that becomes endemic that we just have to be careful about. Yes, we need to learn to live with it, do we not? That's my interjection there, as we do with so many other diseases. But for now, in Portugal, as in so many other countries, to return to the article here, the situation remains serious. I can't give it to you in any other way, folks. I just think, we need to know this information. As to support for businesses affected by the new enforced paralysis at weekends, particularly restaurants, Mr. Costa said this would be cumulative with municipal support, as with other forms conceded by the state. The overriding rule for the looming 2 weekends is everything closed, he said. Exceptions are bakeries, as you would expect in Portugal. Do not touch the pão. So exceptions are bakeries, pharmacies, clinics, and medical consultations, funeral parlors, food shops up to 200 square meters that have their doors directly onto the street, and fuel stations. You will be able to get fuel. The fact that certain sized food shops remain open, said the PM, does not mean that people should feel it's fine to go out shopping after 1 p.m. at weekends. If you run out of milk, you can go out and buy milk, he said, but the general idea is to try and make sure you don't run out of milk. That is some serious micromanagement. The problem with this second wave of the virus nationally is that it's now killing more people than it did in the spring. In the last 14 days, and taking the population into account, Portugal has registered more deaths than Greece, Germany, and Sweden, explained the PM, conceding that the country has pegged less fatalities than Italy, France, Spain, and Belgium. But the scenario is bleak, hence the extraordinary efforts to try and bring the virus under control. Outlining a new support for restaurants seeing their main income of the week further decimated by these measures, Mr. Costa said they could look forward to 20% of lost receipts and would be able to request this extra support from November the 25th. Again, I mean, that just reminds me that we need to support our local shops, don't we, and establishments more than ever. And we also need to get busy. I mean, 20%, it goes some way, doesn't it, to sort of kicking this further down the street. But we have to organise ourselves, I think, locally and in our communities to make sure everyone's okay here, whether you're an expat or not. Through e-Fatura, the government will be able to verify what the average receipt of each restaurant in the 44 weekends between January and the end of October has been, he explained, which presents another interesting situation, obviously, for those sorts of establishments. They'll be paid on what they put through the books, which is interesting. I won't go into too much further detail, but just to let you know that as I understand it, and do check here with Safe Communities Portugal and the marvelous work they do, another great organization. We're talking about how good the team are at the British Embassy. David over there at the Safe Communities Portugal organization are doing a fantastic job and have done since the spring. They've been amazing in just bringing people up to date with what's going on and what we should and shouldn't be doing. But this will be from next weekend, not this one, the one after, in those 191 municipalities, boroughs. There will be a curfew basically from 1 in the afternoon until 5 the following morning. So that and other measures, find out about that at Safe Communities Portugal. And I'll repeat those measures and post what we can as well, of course, to help you at the expatsportugal.com forum as well. Okay, let's just conclude then with a few of your comments. What a morning it's been on this Friday the 13th. I might lurk at the back of the man cave tonight, says Penny. I thought last night at the wine club, there was some talk of the she shed getting some legs and knowing how to use them, to coin a ZZ Top phrase. So if you are interested in the kind of gender balancing equivalent of the man cave, Penny is possibly hosting a she shed. It'll be a different sort of format, as you might expect, because the ladies may want to do it differently. But Penny's your man. Penny's your woman, your lady for the she shed. Mrs. M, I told you it's trouble when she's here. I'm sure it'll have the smell of warm beer, link spray, and smelly socks. The joke's on you, Mrs. M, because it's done in this studio here. And if that's the case, it's a studio we share. I see your joss sticks are on the table here, so it's not all one-way traffic. There's a few empty bottles of wine, an old UK plug, just to give you an idea, an Oyster card, and a couple of Lego figures. Welcome to our world. A couple of Lego figures, as well as corks and Maria biscuits and stuff. Oh, she's gone to the dark side here. Bye civil liberties. Oh dear. Can't understand it. Our active cases went down, so I'm puzzled why they have done this. It is based on a ratio of rising cases, is it not? I think, Gary. Yeah, let's talk about that more tonight, shall we? Hi, I'm in the car. We'll have to catch up later. That's from Joe. Good morning to you and Ty, Joe. Good luck to everyone doing their paperwork. It might not be quick, fun, or easy, but it'll be worth it. Such a great community of support and help here. Thanks so much. Our pleasure. To you, I think Sally, right, at English Lisboa. I hope Marco was delighted with his personal greeting from the ambassador. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Grounded like a 40-something teenager. Mrs. M's not at all happy about this because it's about power, not based on actual facts. She's not happy, Bunny, this morning. Would you consider doing a lockdown special next weekend? I don't know exactly what you mean about that with that, Paul. PM me. Let me know what you're thinking. It's something we could certainly consider offering some sort of provision because, of course, the pandemic is not just a weekday thing, and nor is being an expat. It's a whole week thing. We could broaden this team. Of course, there can be other people presenting shows and hosting webinars and gatherings online, which is where we could focus our attention, obviously, to give you the best possible service. My attention drawn to the fact that no, I can't work at the weekend, says Mrs. M. So there's your answer. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. A milestone in the little sort of career trajectory of our show here to have the Brit ambassador on. My mum's very proud of me. And thank you for being here. Thank you for putting those questions to the ambassador, to Chris Sainty. And of course, put them in the forum as well, the questions. And like I said, we will talk to the team at the British Embassy, and we will organise another Portugal calling webinar as we find ourselves in the transition period and the deadline looming. So we help you as best as possible. We're thinking of opening up my dressing room once a month for ladies offline. That's very discreet, and that's definitely what goes on in the dressing room stays in the dressing room. That's not going to be broadcast or recorded or anything like that. I would say then, therefore, Penny, that us men are much more transparent, vulnerable, and authentic, bearing our souls as we do in the man cave on a Friday evening from 10 o'clock. But you got to do what you got to do. Great job, Mr. M, from Mrs. M. Now she stopped ranting. And everyone, awesome show. Perhaps they should list the cities not covered by the measures. Yeah, good point, Gianni. Can you imagine being in that team, doing what they're doing at the moment, managing this? It's not a job I would want, frankly. And hello, is it me you're looking for, says Wayne? I think that's maybe a hello with the mention of Penny Albertella's dressing room. I don't know. I'm just guessing. So thank you so much for being here this morning. Have a great weekend. Bon fin de semana. See you tonight if you're coming to the Expat Man Cave. All are welcome. It's not just a man thing. It is. It's for everybody who can get in on the vibes, basically, and is on a similar wavelength to us of puerile humour and having a drink and kicking back, chewing the fat, talking nonsense as men of a certain age do, and making sense of our lives in this new country, and in particular in this crazy time in human history. And on Monday, I'm hoping we will have Donna Jacqueline with us, who I mentioned before, who's been treated brilliantly, basically, I have to say, by the folks over at Caldas de Reina. Barcelo Award for them, because they went to housebound. Well, she's not housebound, strictly speaking, but she spends a lot of her time in a motorized chair and at home. I think she can get out, but she's essentially, it's very difficult for her to get out and about, and it would be very difficult for her to get to her local parish hall and the town hall to get her documents sorted out. Those wonderful people over there from the Freguesia at the local level and from the town level visited her in her house. Portuguese officials doing that, and I saw a lovely photograph of her with a bottle of champagne being given her residency document by a local official. And we hope to talk to her about that on Monday morning. Lovely bit of good news, and humans being fabulous humans in these difficult times. So, bon fin de semana, ciao, ciao, and take care. Have a great weekend, and be careful of that rainy weekend ahead.